Film versus analytics. More debate between Scott Barrett and I. Every day we are breaking down the new rookies based on Dynasty ADP, battling them out film versus analytics style. I am the film expert, Brett Whitefield. Scott Barrett will join me. He is the analytics maven of the show. If you're interested by the things you hear today, be sure to check out the 2024 prospect guide on fantasypoints.com, as well as Scott Barrett's rookie model articles breaking down each position by the numbers. Today, we are talking about Texas running back Jonathan Brooks. So without further ado, let's get after it. What's up, Scott?
How's it going, Brett?
Oh, it's good. You know, we get to talk about my least favorite position to talk about, which is running back, because running backs don't matter, and I'm a hater.
Wow. Look at it. Wow. Well, they matter a great deal for fantasy. We just talked about this in the previous episode. If you're in a super flex league, quarterback's the most important position. In a one QB, running back is the most important position. That has to do with scarcity. Um, Highest end fantasy running backs are worth their weight in gold. The concern I have for this class is I don't know that there's any highest end running backs. There's two I really like. And then after that, maybe the third, especially if he gets the landing spot everyone's predicting. And then after that, I just see a bunch of like change of pace options and like RB2s, which are like basically worthless to me in Dynasty, just like roster cloggers. But again, that's the running back position. Perhaps because of what you said, running backs don't matter. NFL front office is becoming more woke to that. Teams deploying more committee backfields. The position's becoming scarcer and scarcer. And this class isn't really going to help. So there's the top two. Jonathan Brooks is one of them. And so um, I, I'm excited about him, even if you're not.
Yeah. Can I get excited about Jonathan Brooks? Sure. I just wish he wasn't a running back. But hit us with well, no,
Oh,
I didn't mean
exciting
that any
thing.
type of way. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't mean that any type of like they should change positions. I just mean
You're right. Okay.
like if Jonathan Brooks were to watch this episode, I wouldn't want him to think I don't like him personally. Does that make sense? That's why I said what
Well,
I
I
said.
checked out your draft guide and it seems like you don't like him personally.
I mean, he is my RB4 in the class, and we'll get into there's a very specific reason why. We'll
Yeah.
get into that later. For now, though, I mean, you are the analytics king, and I know, you know, you have strong takes on running backs, especially with the things you're looking for. So why don't you hit us with that?
Yeah. So a brief bio on Jonathan Brooks, high school senior, 70 total touchdowns, second most in state history, four-star recruit. He didn't do anything in his first two seasons, stuck behind a top 10 pick in Bijan Robinson, who was 1.5 years older, a round four pick in Roshan Johnson, 2.5 years older. I don't hold that against him at all. Like we've seen that before. Priest Holmes, number of running backs like that. Uh, Brooks last season served as the team's bell cow. And again, stacked competition. I think two or three guys in our Devi top 15 at the position. So bell cow through 10 games before a late season ACL tear. And through those 10 games, Brooks' numbers was not at all dissimilar to that of Bijan Robinson's marks in the previous season. Uh, his 142.1 yards from scrimmage per game would have ranked as the best single season mark of any Power Five running back in the class. And well, that's just crazy. Like my model thought Bijan Robinson was the best running back prospect since Saquon, and Brooks was right there. And in fact, he was even more involved through the air by just about like every metric that's important to my model. Brooks' 2023 season ranked no worse than the 70th percentile versus Power Five running backs drafted round one or round two. Or day one or day two since 2015 by missed tackles forced per touch. That's my favorite stat. He ranked in the 91st percentile behind only seasons from Javante Williams, Travis Etienne, Bijan Robinson, David Montgomery, and Zach Moss. He averaged 9.9 yards per target last season, 81st percentile, best season by any Power Five running back in the class. Easily led in missed tackles forced per reception and PFF pass block grade. And that's key in my ranking of Brooks. He profiles as the best and perhaps even only three down running back in this class. And that's just such a massively important point because remember, your draft guide is more just geared towards like how good are these players from an NFL standpoint. Mine is more
Mhm.
geared towards fantasy. And in a PPR league for a running back, targets are worth 2.53 times as much as a carry, and this class is otherwise devoid of running backs with pass catching upside. Um, I don't know that he's a guaranteed bell cow. Um, the small sample size clouds the level of certainty, but he is my RB1, and I do feel pretty good about it. The chief concern, and I know you're going to bring it up, so maybe I'll save my counter arguments for later. Is he's coming off of that ACL injury, probably going to miss a good chunk of training camp, but he's supposed to be ready by week 1. And I'll leave it to you.
All right. Yeah. So here's the deal with Brooks. You mentioned the 3 down potential. I do see that. I think if I were to, like, let's just assume everyone was healthy and I had to pick one guy in this class to be a 3 down running back, I'd pick Jonathan Brooks. So I'll concede that point. That is huge for him. I do think he also has the talent in his body to be the best running back in this draft class. I think that is also true. So I'll concede that to you as well. What you're getting with Jonathan Brooks is a guy with top tier contact balance. I mean, this dude, he can handle the rigors of being an early down runner. Like, he's not gonna run with a ton of power. And in fact, I'll get to his deficiencies in a minute, and that's one of his, but he's he doesn't go down on first contact normally. He's a fluid, methodical runner. Like, his ability to change directions without really altering speed is awesome. He's got super flexible ankles and hips. Um, he can basically bend while he's running, which changes angles. He can fit through tight creases. All this is really, really good for him as an early down runner, even though he doesn't play with that physicality you look for. He's like this real slashing style. And he's got good speed. I don't think I've heard Jamal Charles comps. I think that's utterly ridiculous. I don't think he's got that speed or even anything close to it. But he's got good enough speed to hit home run balls if the opportunity presents itself. My favorite thing about Jonathan Brooks, though, Scott, excellent vision. And one thing I love about Texas running backs and the Sarkeesian system that's coming out, they run everything. They throw everything at that offensive line. You've got every gap concept on the books: power, counter, pull lead, duo. You got inside zone, outside zone. These running backs get experience with every look that they're going to see in the NFL. That's why one of the things I loved about Bijan, one of the things I loved about Roshan last year, Brooks falls right into that. And he's got great vision, especially on gap runs. He knows how to, like, the tempo and pace he runs at with power and counter is excellent. His ability to set those blockers up, find the correct hole or find the hole and explode through it is awesome. Really, really good stuff. I also like that he's low wear and tear. Like, I know he's coming off the injury, but dude's got less than 300 career college touches. That to me is a plus. You want to get max value out of a rookie contract. Well, how about doing it with the guy that doesn't have much wear and tear on his body? Downside to him, no power element to his game whatsoever. Like, not at all. He's not a guy that's going to take a hit and then drive with his legs and pick up extra yards. As the boxes get tighter in the NFL, this is a big concern. You, for early down running market share, Scott, tying this back to fantasy, you need guys that can move the pile a little bit. When I see him in that regard, I think of like Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams gets hit and that's it. It's over. If he doesn't have the slipperiness to evade the tackle, he's not going to do much else. And I know he's got really high, yards after contact per carry numbers, but that's all strictly influenced by the amount of big plays he had. So if he breaks one tackle, then runs for 60 yards, he's getting credited for 60 yards after contact. That's his sample size is just too small to really, I think, glean a lot from that yards after contact number. The other thing is he can be a little too patient on zone carries. This is real nitpicky of me, but like when he's in outside zone and inside zone, he trusts that burst a little too much where he knows last second I can cut, I can make things happen. Listen, in the NFL, defenders are way bigger, way stronger, way faster. They penetrate way quicker. You're not going to generate movement like that Texas O line did. He's got to be a little more decisive. But that's again nitpicky. Ultimately, the thing that comes down to me and why I have him RB4 and not say RB1 is that injury history. Um, why are you shaking your head?
You To me, you conceded the entire debate with the first two things you said. You said he has the best three down potential in the class. You're right. You said he has the talent to be the RB1. And then you just spoke for 7 minutes and you're like, "Yeah, this is nitpicky, but it's all nitpicky." That's it for a fantasy. When we're talking fantasy, is
It's
easily best three down upside in the class, talent to be the
so
RB1. End of conversation.
I
And then
argue this
it's like you're
myself.
holding the injury history against him, just the ACL. That's it.
We'll get into why.
All right. All right. All
I
right.
haven't got there, but the no power element to his game is a big deal. Like I do wonder if NFL teams will see him as an early down runner. So yeah, he might be a great third down player, but is he going to be a first and second down player? And in fantasy, you absolutely need that guy to be on the field in those situations, right?
I mean, that would be shocking to me if a team didn't see him as a first and second down runner, and only
Like,
as a scat back.
no, I'm not saying only the scat back, but like I'm talking bell cow status.
Right, right, right,
He's
right.
getting all of our first and second down touches. We're not bringing in a bigger, I think like what if he landed in LA with Gus Edwards? I think Gus Edwards would still take those early down duties a lot of the time.
Yeah, but
So
again,
he'll still get some of it. I'm not saying he won't, but you know,
I think that's a fair point. But remember what I was saying about targets being worth 2.5 times as much as a carry. So
yeah,
that means you like contrast him to like let's say Trey Benson, 0 targets, and we'll say Jonathan Brooks 4 targets per game. That's equivalent to 10 carries.
all right, yeah, that's great. Okay, injury history and why it bothers me so much.
All right.
The
All right.
NFL is already they've already planted the flag that we don't we don't value running backs that much. With how late the ACL was, an NFL team to draft him high and give him the draft capital that I know you care about, by the way,
Mhm.
they're going to have to be okay with sacrificing his most valuable season on the books in his rookie year. That is the most valuable season for a running back, no matter where they're drafted, is that rookie year. They're going to have to be okay with losing pretty much all of that and maybe part of his second season because, as you saw with a guy like Blake Corum this year or Brees Hall last year or Javonte Williams in Denver, it doesn't just all come back right away. It takes time, and I have strong concerns, and maybe my concerns are alleviated in 9 days from today when he goes in the second round, maybe. But I just don't see an NFL team being willing to sacrifice the two most valuable seasons potentially that they're going to get out of this guy and have to wait on a running back, especially a team that needs him to play right now. I think you'll see other running backs go ahead of him. I'm worried he falls to the late third, early fourth, and then at that draft capital, he just becomes super replaceable unless he pops right away.
Yeah, so on draft night, he's going to be 5 months removed from the torn ACL, typical 9 month recovery timeline. He's supposed to be, he's on track to be cleared right before week one. And so, like, the fantasy community is like, oh, we're good. He's going to be cleared by week one. But, like you said, this is going to have an impact on draft capital. I don't think a lot, just because looking at projected draft capital, he's the RB1. So it like doesn't look to be a profound
Projected by
effect.
who?
NFL mock draft consensus.com, which is
Yeah,
like, no,
I
I
think
know, I know.
they're
There's
valuing
the
the injury
concern
bracket. Yeah.
that he can go later, but like right now, it doesn't look like a major one to me. But here's why this matters to me. So running backs in their first year back from an ACL typically see a slight decrease in efficiency. We didn't really see that from Brees Hall. At least it took a while, maybe a slight decrease in volume early on. But more importantly to me, this is something Dr. David Chow has told me about multiple times, and like typically seems to be true, is an increased risk of injury, not to the ACL, but like other compensatory injuries, especially if you rush them back. But the biggest point about this is that rookies, especially rookie running backs, tend to start their careers off slowly when they're forced to sit out much of preseason and training camp, because that is just like so important. You need to learn the offensive system. It's a massive jump from the college to the NFL level in terms of competition. All that stuff is really important, but ultimately not enough to shake me off of everything else there was to like about Jonathan Brooks. And so
Mm.
he's still my RB1. And like, who knows, maybe he gets cleared even earlier than expected, or he's an attentive listener in training camp and, you know, picks it up quickly. I don't know, especially given like we only have like a 10 game sample size of him as a starter. Um, And then, yeah, there's a cost associated with every pick in fantasy. And so it's like, what happens if he does struggle year one or like slow to get off the ground? Then it's like, well, fast forward to November, it's like, well, now Trey Benson is worth Jonathan Brooks plus a round two pick
Right.
plus a whatever. And so that matters still at the end of the day. I had him RB1, but in a tight tier alongside Trey Benson. And if not for the ACL, it might not have been a very tight tier.
All right. Let me make three points to at least tie up my side of the argument. To your point about the training camp, this is so huge, Scott, especially if you want to see this guy as a 3 down back, someone who they trust to put on the field in passing situations. Do you know how much
Yeah. Mhm.
pass pro practice they get in college?
Yeah.
In camp, they get 3 minutes a week in pass pro. Most colleges. Now, this is a blanket statement. Most colleges do a pass pro period for 3 minutes a week, and then once the season starts, they don't practice it anymore. He is super undeveloped as a pass pro, and if he's going to miss training camp, that's his window of opportunity to earn the trust of his quarterback, to earn the trust of his offensive coordinator, to know that, yeah, because on third downs, that's inevitable. You have to be able to pass pro and catch the football if you're going to be a third down running back.
Well,
I
I thought
This
where
is a
you were
big
gonna go
deal
with
to me.
that was
Yeah.
just, like, how much rookies struggle in pass protection. Like, Christian McCaffrey was the worst pass protector as a rookie, and then the next season, he was top 5. I think we
Yeah.
also saw that with Dalvin, David Montgomery, maybe Le'Veon Bell. Again, he is the best pass protector in the class per PFF
No,
grading,
he
but
that's bull, though. That's bull. PFF's grades, especially pass pro, is production related. So you have to scout the technique. He does not have the technique to be a phenomenal pass protector right out of the gate. He doesn't have the physical toughness. We've already talked about that. He's not going to come up and stop a linebacker in his tracks that's blitzing through the A gap. He's going to get absolutely annihilated by NFL guys at that level. He doesn't have the technique to do it. He's lungy, doesn't have good hand placement. PFF, their grading scale is completely, did you do your job or not? They don't grade technique. They don't grade, you know, hand placement. They don't grade footwork. It's, did you do your job or not? Yes, cool. You're not getting dinged. No, well, you're getting dinged. And so he just happened to not get dinged a lot because in college it's a totally different recipe. My other point and last point is if you look at my running back scores, Scott, my top four, which I believe are some combo of Corum, Lloyd, Brooks, and Shipley. Does that sound right? Or no, am I missing somebody?
that sounds
Um,
right.
Sounds right. Okay.
Shipley
That's
might
a
be RB5 though. Yeah, you actually might be missing someone.
okay.
I'll check.
It's a really tight cluster is my point though. And so for me on the fantasy level, it is 100% coming down to landing spot. And when we put out our rookie rankings after the draft, I'm 100% going to side with draft capital to divide that up, or opportunity, I guess, projected opportunity. So yeah, that I just wanted to say that point. Like, I have Brooks as my RB3 or 4 or whatever, but it doesn't mean I don't like him. I just, that cluster is really tight for me. So
You did have Shipley RB4. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's what I wrote up in my articles. Like, this isn't a great draft class. I like the big two. I'm kind of on the fence about 3, but you have him RB1. So there's that. And I think he's going to get good draft capital and a good landing spot. And then after that, it's really rough. Or maybe you're my RB4, your RB2. But anyway, it's like talent is like one of the most important things for sure.
sure.
It's like almost all that matters when it comes to wide receivers and quarterbacks. But for running backs, it's just not that important. It's like uh, we want volume. Volume is nearly everything, and it's talented running backs. More talented running backs get more volume, of course, but it's like you could also just get a mid guy who falls to like the nut spot who could be a fantasy low end fantasy RB1, high end fantasy RB2. And so with how star, like there are some amazing landing spots in this class. Dallas, Carolina, Giants, Chargers, not in that order. Um, and so it's like, yeah, that's going to be massively important. Even though this guy's my RB1, he can get absolutely buried. Like, what if he goes to Atlanta? Like, there's no chance that happens. But it's like you
Yeah.
you can't sell him for like a round 2 if he goes to. So, yeah, obviously that's important. But like I said, the guy RB1 right now by projected draft capital. Theoretically, like the teams who need a running back most desperately are the teams to take him that high, like Dallas. So, not a huge concern for me, and I do feel comfortable about the talent on top of that.
You didn't ask me about a player comp. Dang it. Come
Who's
on,
your
Scott.
player comp?
Style comp, not ceiling floor, is Alvin Kamara, Saints running back. I know that makes you happy because Kamara's been an absolute fantasy beast, but I just the way they run looks similar. It's this more slashy, fluid style. They're explosive in a weird way. Like they're explosive, but it doesn't look herky jerky. It's super fluid. And I think early in Kamara's career, he didn't have the power that you're looking for. He's great at breaking tackles, but he wasn't good at getting that leg drive, moving the pile. But he had that 3 down skill set, and ultimately he won the day and got better as a pro, and yada yada yada. So I think this is a really good comp for Kamara. One of my favorite comps I have of this entire draft class.
Wow. Wow. My analytics comp, and by the way, like analytics comps are so worthless. Like just go off of Brett's film comps. I said he reminded me of Miles Sanders. Just analytically, Sanders was buried behind Saquon Barkley, and then was comparable to like lesser, but like better than expected after Saquon left. And so rich man's Miles Sanders, whereas like Brooks was shockingly close to Bijan, more involved through the air. But I mean, like Sanders was the RB1 in that class, got really good draft capital for that class. So that's what I got.
And that was a similar running back class, actually. Like Sanders didn't go to what, pick 50?
Yeah, I've been saying, maybe I got this from you even. I've been saying this class reminds me of 2022, where it's like Brooks is like a very poor man's Brees Hall. Brees Hall's my RB1 in Dynasty right now. And then Trey Benson's like a slightly, he's pretty close to Kenneth Walker, actually. And
Sure.
then after that, there's just like, ugh.
Well, you know what's funny about that class is that class gave us Rashad White. You just did your whole soliloquy about opportunity is what matters for running backs. Talent,
Right.
not so much. Rashad White, for all intents and purposes, was bad his first 18 to 20 starts in the NFL, but the fantasy production was there, and he was probably a league winner last year for a lot of teams. So, yeah, stud.
Fantasy points favorite right there. We were all over him. That was
Yeah,
John's must draft running back, my must draft running back.
I loved him coming out. I definitely influenced you guys a little bit there too, for sure.
Mhm.
John and I watched him down at the Senior Bowl. Loved him there. So
And why we loved him, because he had great amazing 3 down potential
yep.
and was underrated relative to that. Tampa Bay, when they took him, they were asked, why did you take him? It's because we thought he had the best 3 down potential in the class, is one of the most complete running backs in the class. And so I love that, and I see that in Jonathan Brooks.
Good call.
All right, there you have it. Let put a bow on it. The current cost is 202. Like, I think that's really good value. Um, if this guy goes to Dallas in round 2, like, where
Yeah.
are you taking it? 10, 108, 109. So, yeah, I'd love to take Jonathan Brooks with this
They,
pick.
they might be the team that can't do it though, right? And I know Jerry loves his Texas boys. He loves Texas boys. But they have no one else on the roster. You can't take a guy who's hurt. you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
They're in a win there is in as a win now window than maybe any team in the NFL because they got situations across the board as far as contracts. Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, like this, they're gonna go for it this year, and they might blow it up afterwards. I could see Dak moving on. I could see them moving on from Micah at some point. I mean, this is crazy. So
Yeah.